Have you ever had this happen? You finally get comfortable in bed. The room is quiet. Your body is tired. And you're just beginning to drift into deep sleep. Then, suddenly, you wake up. You need to use the bathroom. You get out of bed, walk down the hallway, urinate, and return to your bedroom. You get comfortable again, close your eyes, and just when you feel like you're finally falling back asleep, you have to go again. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. For many adults, especially as we get older, nighttime bathroom trips can become a frustrating part of everyday life. And sometimes, waking up once during the night may not be a major concern. But what happens when it becomes 2 times, 3 times, or even more? Suddenly, it isn't just about your bladder anymore. Your sleep is being interrupted again and again. You may wake up feeling tired before the day has even started. Your concentration may suffer. Your mood can change. And when you're getting out of bed repeatedly during the night, especially in a dark room, there can also be a greater risk of losing your balance or falling. But here's something important I want you to know. Waking up to urinate at night isn't always something you simply have to accept as part of getting older. Sometimes, there may be a very simple reason behind it. And sometimes, one small change in your evening routine may help reduce how often your bladder wakes you up. Now, that doesn't mean there is a magic trick that will permanently stop nighttime urination. And it certainly doesn't mean you should stop drinking water during the day. In fact, drastically cutting your fluids can create its own problems. The smarter question is, what are you drinking? How much are you drinking? And when are you drinking it? Because your bladder doesn't operate in isolation. Your kidneys, hormones, sleep patterns, medications, blood sugar, prostate health, and even fluids stored in your legs can all influence how much urine your body produces at night. So in this video, we're going to look at the simple evening habits that may help calm this nighttime cycle, the common mistakes that can make it worse, and the warning signs you should never ignore. And the best part? You don't necessarily need an expensive supplement, a complicated routine, or some miracle product. Sometimes, the first step is simply understanding what your body is doing and making one smart change at the right time. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have a simple evening routine you can start thinking about tonight. Before we talk about what you can do to reduce those nighttime bathroom trips, it helps to understand why they happen in the first place. Because here's the thing. Waking up to pee isn't always caused by a bladder that's simply too full. There can be several different reasons behind it. Let's start with a word you may have heard before, nocturia. Nocturia simply means waking up during the night because you need to urinate. For example, if you go to bed at 10 p.m., wake up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, and then return to sleep, that's a nighttime urination episode. But there's an important detail many people don't realize. Sometimes your bladder actually wakes you up because it's full. Other times, something else wakes you first. Maybe you have a restless night. Maybe you need to change position. Maybe your room is too warm. Maybe you have a sleep disorder. And once you're awake, you notice that you could probably use the bathroom, so you get up and go. Over time, this can become a pattern. So when you're waking up at 2 or 3 inches the morning, the question isn't always simply, why is my bladder so weak? The better question is, why am I waking up, and how much urine is my body producing during the night? Now let's talk about one of the simplest factors to look at, evening fluids. Imagine this. You finish dinner around 7 p.m. Then you sit on the couch and watch television. You drink a large glass of water. Then another. A little later, you make yourself a cup of tea. And before bed, you drink another glass of water because you want to stay hydrated. None of these choices sounds unreasonable by itself. But when you add them together, your kidneys may have quite a bit of fluid to process while you're trying to sleep. And if much of that fluid is consumed during the final few hours before bed, your bladder may simply be responding to what your body is receiving. This doesn't mean you should stop drinking water. That's an important distinction. Your body needs adequate hydration, and intentionally dehydrating yourself is not a healthy solution. Instead, we're going to focus later on fluid timing, getting enough throughout the day, while being more thoughtful about large amounts right before bedtime. But fluids aren't the only issue. Let's talk about caffeine. Coffee is the obvious example, but caffeine can also come from tea, energy drinks, cola, and other beverages. Caffeine can have a mild diuretic effect in some people, meaning it may contribute to increased urine production. But there's another issue that's just as important. Caffeine can stimulate the nervous system and make it harder for some people to get deep, continuous sleep. And remember what we discussed earlier. If something causes you to wake up more easily during the night, you may become more aware of your bladder, and that can lead to another bathroom trip. So even when caffeine isn't the only reason you're producing more urine, it may still be contributing to the cycle. Now let's briefly talk about alcohol. This isn't about judging anyone's lifestyle. It's simply about understanding what alcohol can do to the body. Alcohol can increase urine production and can also interfere with normal sleep patterns. So if someone has several drinks in the evening, they may find themselves both producing more urine and experiencing more disrupted sleep. That combination can make nighttime bathroom trips much more likely. But here's where this gets really important. Sometimes the bladder isn't actually the main problem. For men, an enlarged prostate can make it more difficult to empty the bladder completely, or can increase urinary symptoms. An overactive bladder can create sudden, difficult-to-ignore urges. Urinary tract problems can also change urinary habits. Certain medications, including some medicines that increase urine production, can affect when your body makes urine. And conditions that affect blood sugar, such as diabetes, can lead to increased urination, including at night. There's another factor people often overlook: swelling in the legs. If you've spent much of the day sitting or standing, fluid can collect in your lower legs. When you lie down at night, that fluid can move back into circulation. Your kidneys may then process some of it, which can increase urine production while you're in bed. And finally, there's sleep apnea. People with sleep apnea may repeatedly stop breathing or have disrupted breathing during sleep. This can affect the body's fluid regulation and is associated with nighttime urination in some people. So you can see why simply saying, "I'm getting older, so of course I have to pee all night," isn't always a complete explanation. Occasional nighttime urination can be common, but if you're regularly waking up multiple times every night, if the problem is getting worse, or if you've noticed other changes in your health, it's worth paying attention. This video isn't here to diagnose you. It's here to help you recognize the patterns. Because once you understand what may be driving the nighttime trips, you can make smarter decisions about what to change and when it's time to talk with a healthcare professional. And that's exactly what we're going to get into next. Now that you understand some of the reasons you may be waking up to urinate, let's talk about what you can actually do. And I want to keep this very practical. You don't need to completely change your life tonight. You don't need a miracle supplement. And you certainly shouldn't try to stop drinking water just because you're tired of getting up to use the bathroom. Instead, think of this as a simple evening bladder calming routine. The goal is to give your body a better chance of staying asleep through the night while still maintaining healthy hydration. Let's start with the first and often simplest change. Step 1. Move most of your fluids earlier. If you're drinking very little during the day and then catching up with several large glasses of water in the evening, your timing may be working against you. Your body needs water throughout the day. So rather than waiting until the evening to drink most of your fluids, try to stay reasonably hydrated during your daytime hours. Then, as bedtime gets closer, avoid routinely drinking large amounts all at once unless you genuinely need them. For example, imagine you're going to bed at 10 p.m. Instead of drinking several large glasses of water between 8 and 10 p.m., try making your hydration more consistent earlier in the day. Then, during the evening, drink according to your thirst and your individual medical needs, rather than forcing down large amounts simply because you think more water is always better. And please remember this: the goal is not dehydration. You shouldn't deliberately make yourself thirsty, skip fluids for long periods, or severely restrict water just to avoid the bathroom. That can create problems of its own. We're simply trying to avoid turning the last few hours before bed into your body's busiest hydration period. Step 2. Create a caffeine cutoff. Next, look at caffeine. If you regularly drink coffee or caffeinated tea late in the afternoon or evening, try moving that drink earlier. Different people respond to caffeine differently. Some people can drink coffee in the evening and fall asleep without much trouble. Others are much more sensitive. And if you're sensitive, That evening cup may affect both your sleep and your nighttime bathroom pattern. You don't necessarily have to eliminate caffeine completely. Instead, experiment. Try having your last caffeinated drink earlier in the day for several days and pay attention to what happens. Do you fall asleep more easily? Do you wake up less often? Do you feel more rested in the morning? This is where paying attention to your own pattern becomes useful. Step 3. Be strategic with evening beverages. Now take a look at what you're actually drinking in the evening. A large cup of tea, coffee, cola, an energy drink, alcohol, or several large glasses of water. Any one of these may seem harmless, but the combination and especially the timing can matter. Rather than thinking of these drinks as a strict list of forbidden beverages, think like a detective. Ask yourself, what happens when I drink this in the evening? Here's a simple example. Suppose you drink a large cup of tea at 9 p.m., and almost every night afterward, you wake up twice to use the bathroom. That pattern is worth paying attention to. You don't need to assume the tea is definitely the cause, but it's reasonable to test the connection. Move the tea earlier or choose a non-caffeinated option if appropriate and see whether your nighttime pattern changes. The goal isn't perfection. It's finding the habits that make the biggest difference for you. Step 4. Empty your bladder before bed. Here's another simple habit. Use the bathroom shortly before getting into bed. If your bladder already contains urine when you're going to sleep, emptying it beforehand may help you start the night more comfortably. But let's be clear about what this does and doesn't do. Going to the bathroom before bed isn't some magical way to train your bladder to hold urine all night. And it won't fix an underlying medical condition. It's simply a practical step that can reduce the amount of urine sitting in your bladder when you first fall asleep. Think of it as preparing your body for the night. Step 5. Pay attention to your legs. Now here's a tip that many people don't connect with nighttime urination. Look at your legs. Do your ankles or lower legs become noticeably swollen by the end of the day? If so, some of the fluid that has accumulated in your lower body while you've been sitting or standing may move back into circulation when you lie down. Your kidneys may then process some of that fluid, and that can contribute to more urine production during the night. So, depending on your health and what your healthcare professional recommends, simple daytime movement can be useful. Take a gentle walk. Avoid sitting in one position for extremely long periods. And if you've been advised that leg elevation is appropriate for you, spending some time with your legs elevated earlier in the evening may help manage dependent swelling. But don't ignore significant swelling, especially if the swelling is new, severe, painful, affects one leg much more than the other, or comes with breathing problems or other concerning symptoms. You shouldn't simply assume it's a harmless cause of nighttime urination. That's something to discuss with a healthcare professional. So when you put all 5 steps together, the routine becomes very simple. Hydrate consistently during the day. Reduce large amounts of fluid close to bedtime. Move caffeine earlier. Pay attention to evening beverages. Use the bathroom before bed. And if leg swelling is part of your pattern, address it appropriately rather than ignoring it. None of these steps promises that you'll suddenly sleep through the night, but they give you a practical starting point. And more importantly, they help you understand what may be influencing your nighttime bathroom trips. And there's one more step that can make this even more useful. Learning how to identify your personal pattern instead of guessing. That's what we'll look at next. Now, you've got the basic evening routine, but before you assume that one change will solve everything, there are a few more things I want you to know. Because nighttime urination isn't always about how much water you drink before bed. Sometimes, the most useful clue is simply understanding your own pattern. Tip 1. Keep a 3-day bladder diary. For the next 3 days, try keeping a simple record. You don't need anything complicated. Write down approximately when you drink, how much you drink, and whether the drink contains caffeine or alcohol. Then record your bedtime. During the night, note how many times you wake up to use the bathroom and roughly what time each awakening happens. You can even write down anything unusual, such as a particularly large drink late at night or a very salty meal. Why do this? Because patterns are much easier to see when they're written down. Maybe you discover that you usually drink most of your fluids after dinner. Maybe every nighttime trip happens after late evening tea. Maybe you notice that you wake up at almost the exact same time every night, even when you haven't had much to drink. That information can be surprisingly valuable. Instead of guessing, you're collecting clues. And if you eventually speak with a healthcare professional, having several days of information can also make the conversation much more useful. Tip 2. Don't stop drinking water completely. Now, please don't make this mistake. Some people become so frustrated with nighttime urination that they decide, fine, I'll barely drink anything after lunch. That isn't the solution. Your body still needs adequate fluid. Severely restricting fluids can contribute to dehydration and may cause other problems, particularly for older adults or people taking certain medications or living with certain medical conditions. The goal isn't to make your body produce as little urine as possible. The goal is to find a healthier balance. Adequate hydration during the day, better timing in the evening. And if you've been given specific fluid instructions by your healthcare professional because of a medical condition, follow those individualized instructions rather than general advice from a video. Tip 3. Review your medications with a professional. Here's another factor people sometimes overlook. Some medications can influence how much urine your body produces or when you produce it. For example, certain water pills, also called diuretics, are intentionally used to increase urine production. That doesn't mean the medication is bad. It means the timing may matter for some people. But here's the important rule. Don't change your medication dose or timing on your own. Don't skip a prescribed medication because you're tired of getting up at night. Instead, ask your doctor, pharmacist, or other qualified healthcare professional whether the timing is appropriate for you. Sometimes, a simple medication review can reveal something you hadn't considered. Tip 4. Look beyond the bladder. Here's where you need to become a little more observant. Pay attention to what else is happening in your body. Are you unusually thirsty all the time? Do you snore loudly, wake up gasping, or feel extremely tired during the day? Do you experience burning or pain when you urinate? Has your urine stream become noticeably weaker? Do you have difficulty getting the stream started? Have you noticed blood in your urine? Or has your urinary pattern suddenly changed for no obvious reason? These aren't symptoms you should simply ignore. They don't automatically mean something serious is wrong, but they can provide important clues about what may be contributing to your nighttime bathroom trips. For men especially, changes such as a weak stream, difficulty starting urination, or incomplete emptying can sometimes be associated with prostate problems, and symptoms such as excessive thirst and frequent urination may warrant evaluation for problems affecting blood glucose. The important point is not to diagnose yourself. It's to recognize when the pattern deserves a closer look. Tip 5. Know when normal aging isn't a good explanation. Let's finish this section with something I really want you to remember. If you've been waking up once occasionally, that may not be a major concern. But if nighttime urination is new, suddenly getting worse, happening several times every night, seriously disrupting your sleep, or occurring alongside other symptoms, don't simply tell yourself, I'm getting older, this must be normal. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. And if there's an underlying cause, such as a prostate problem, overactive bladder, medication effect, blood sugar issue, sleep disorder, or another health condition simply trying to suppress the urge to urinate, may never address the real problem. Finding and treating the underlying cause may be much more useful. So think of your nighttime bathroom trips as information, not something to be embarrassed about, and not something you automatically have to accept. Your body may be telling you something. The goal is to listen carefully enough to understand what it is. And now, let's bring everything together into one simple routine you can actually remember and use. So, let's bring everything together. If you're waking up during the night to use the bathroom, the first thing to remember is this. You don't automatically have to blame it on getting older. Nighttime urination can become more common with age, but frequent trips to the bathroom can have many different contributors. Maybe you're drinking large amounts of fluid shortly before bed. Maybe caffeine or alcohol is affecting your sleep or urine production. Maybe your body is simply getting most of its fluids too late in the day. Or there may be another factor involved, such as leg swelling, certain medications, prostate changes, an overactive bladder, blood sugar problems, or a sleep disorder. That's why the goal isn't simply to drink less and hope for the best. A smarter approach is to look at when you're drinking, what you're drinking, what happens during the night, and whether you have any other symptoms. Start with one simple change. For example, try moving most of your fluid intake earlier in the day and avoiding large amounts right before bedtime. If caffeine is part of your evening routine, experiment with moving it earlier. Use the bathroom before bed. And if you notice swelling in your legs or other unusual symptoms, don't simply ignore them. You don't need to change 10 things at once. In fact, I'd rather you choose one small habit, try it consistently for several days, and pay attention to what happens. Because sometimes the biggest improvement starts with something incredibly simple. And please remember this: you don't have to accept miserable sleep as an unavoidable part of aging. If you're regularly waking several times a night, if the problem is new or getting worse, or if you're experiencing symptoms such as pain or burning when urinating, blood in the urine, unusual thirst, major changes in your urinary pattern, or other concerning symptoms, talk with a qualified healthcare professional. Don't just keep suffering in silence. And here on this channel, we're not interested in miracle tricks or exaggerated promises. We're looking for simple, practical, evidence-aware habits that actually make sense. So let me ask you something. How many times do you usually wake up to use the bathroom during the night? 1 time? 2? 3 or more? Tell me in the comments. Your experience may help someone else realize they're not the only one dealing with this. And tonight, don't try to change everything. Just pay attention. Notice what you're drinking in the evening, when you're drinking it, and what happens during the night. Then make one small adjustment and see whether your pattern changes over the next few days. If you found this video useful, subscribe for more practical, healthy aging education covering sleep, nutrition, movement, and everyday habits that can support a healthier life as you get older. Because better sleep doesn't always require a complicated solution. Sometimes, understanding what your body is telling you and making one smart change at the right time is the place to begin.